everyone. My name is Yara, and welcome to the first episode of my new interview and podcast series for youth, The Spirit of Success. In this series, we speak with Baha'is who are successful in their careers and try to get a glimpse into what influenced their career choices and how they incorporate the teachings of the faith into their work and life. We hope this program inspires you and helps you to begin navigating your path toward your dream career. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Olufani. Welcome, Mr. Olufani. How are you today?
I'm doing very good, Yara. Happy to be here with you and to be honored to be the first guest on your new podcast series. It's awesome.
Thank you. And it's wonderful having you here today. And I'm super excited for our conversation. So for today's episode, we're going to be discussing careers that relate to the arts. And among your various professions and talents, you are a very well-known multidisciplinary artist and writer. As such, before we get into your career, we would love to know how you got into the arts.
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I grew up I was born in Los Angeles, but I was raised a large part of my early years in New York, in the New York area. First outside of the city and then actually in the city of Manhattan itself. And I started drawing like when I was literally about 4 years old. And my mother recognized that I had a natural inclination to want to draw. And she made sure that I had pencils and paper and stuff like that. So that I just developed a love for it, a joy. It was a way I could kind of have a window to another world or another state of being. It gave me peace, gave me a sense of comfort, and I just really enjoyed it. So I started there, and I got some training and continued training and as a young person through high school, through college and graduate school. And so that's how that part of my career path developed. And then I kind of got into, I was doing a little bit of modeling, nothing big, just local stuff when I was in grad school, and started doing some acting, and then got involved in acting that way. And the writing was when I used to take the train from where I was living in Far Rockaway, Queens. I was going to school in Newark, New Jersey. And that's about an hour and 15-minute train ride. So I had all of this extra time. I would just read the whole time, like the whole train ride. And it was from the reading that I developed a love for language and thought that maybe I might like writing. And then I started doing some writing in school, and the teachers encouraged me. So yeah, that's how all of that began. I mean, the interest for it and the passion for it anyway. And then leading into the career path stuff, really, some of that developed really organically. It was just going from one thing to the next, basically. Yeah.
That is so wonderful. And
Mhm.
I think within that and your progression in the arts, when did you find out that like multidisciplinary art was like your go-to style that you loved, I guess, above the others, or felt that you could do the most with it? How did that come about?
Yeah, well, when you have an interest in more than one thing, and you also have a facility for more than one thing, it's either very confusing or you find a way to like integrate those different areas that you're interested in to have a kind of creative life. So I still say that my primary practice is probably based in the visual arts, but I also love acting so much, performing, um, and I try to see when you're a visual artist or a writer, you spend a lot of time alone, right? Because you're creating in your studio or you're in front of your computer, and when you're acting, you're working collaboratively with other artists, and so it's nice to have a break to be able to like work on your own, but then also work with other groups of people. And then sometimes the disciplines overlap. So I might do a performance piece that has a visual element, but it also has a performative element. Maybe there's some writing in there as well. So then I'm able to combine all three of those different interests into a work of art. So, it's all of that's an organic process. Sometimes they're very separate, and then sometimes they're all working together in the same space. So, yeah.
Yeah. That is so cool. And then from that point, when I know you kind of touched on this, but when did you decide that art was the career of choice?
Yeah. I think, well, it's interesting because I didn't know anybody in my family who was a professional artist. I mean, I'm the first. My father was in business for years. My mother was a homemaker when I was a kid, but then she worked as a secretary for a while and did some other things. And then my stepmother was also in business for many years. So I was kind of embarking on a journey that I didn't really have much kind of guidance on from my immediate family.
Yeah.
And then when I went to college, I stuck with what I like to do, which was making art. Most people tell you, man, gosh, you want to do anything, but don't be an artist. And so I just kept at it. And I didn't really, when I got to grad school, things started opening up a little bit. I started winning some competitions and stuff like that. And then one opportunity led to another. And I was like, oh, I actually have a career doing this. I mean, I'm actually like doing this at a professional level, and people are actually paying me well to do this. This is weird. Okay, I guess I have a career. So, yeah, it wasn't like it was mapped out and planned so deliberately. It just kind of unfolded as I studied and you know started showing more and all that sort of thing. So yeah.
And I think, like you mentioned, even though it wasn't something you necessarily planned as like, I'm going to go become an artist, I think that was sort of a confirmation of how life took you in the path that it took you, that it was like,
Yeah.
this is what you're meant to do. And I guess kind of open that door to a new career choice that maybe hadn't been explored previously in your family. So, being that it wasn't necessarily like your plan to become an
Mm-hmm.
artist,
Mm-hmm.
was this a different career choice from maybe what you would have been expected to take on, or different from what you had thought you would become when you grew up?
Yeah, there were a lot of things I was interested in when I was a kid. I loved dinosaurs, so I was into, I guess, paleontology is what they would call it.
Yeah.
Mostly looking at, books about dinosaurs and stuff. It's fascinated me. I love big sharks. So, there's the marine biologist thing for a while. I think, yeah, I mean, I was kind of bouncing around on a number of things. But I don't know. I think I never got pushed to go in any one direction. Like I didn't have parents who were like, okay, you're going to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, or a business person. So they kind of let me kind of figure that out for myself. I think, there wasn't a lot of pressure that way. Um, and also, I mean, I think also I was, I came from a situation of abuse as a child. So art for me became a way of kind of comforting me. It was a comfort in a way. And it's always been that. It's always been like a kind of safe place that I can go to where I know this environment. This environment is safe. I know how to navigate this space. There's going to be struggle in the studio because every time you do something new, there's always struggle.
Yeah.
But there was something about the safety of that and the comfort that came from creativity that I just stuck with it, all of those years. So yeah. Yeah.
For myself, art has
Mhm.
always been one of those places where I feel like it allows me to express myself, especially
Yeah.
maybe in ways that people, um, maybe when they see me wouldn't expect. Like,
Mhm.
I love flamenco. I'm a flamenco dancer,
It's
and that
awesome.
actually came about because of an accident that I had in 2014 where I broke both my wrists.
Mm.
And up until then, I mean, music's always been a part of my life. Like, my mom was always singing,
Mhm.
and my sister and I have been playing instruments since we were younger.
Mhm.
And so when I got told, you can't use your hands,
Mhm.
I was shocked. I was
Mhm.
like, how am I supposed to make music or like, do something for fun? And so my mom and I talked a little bit, and flamenco music had always been in the house. And we started singing those songs even before we started learning Spanish. she was like, why don't you try flamenco dancing? We'll see if there's somebody around, and you can take classes. After my first try, I fell in love with the dance, and I could not even imagine it be something that I don't have anymore. So it definitely, art in all forms is such an escape and such a safe space for many people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also that, I think if you go through traumatic, like you're describing a trauma, a physical trauma, right, that impacted your life, and mine was more of a kind of emotional trauma that I went through. And I think those experiences, they give you a kind of a sensitivity, an awareness of human experience in a deeper way. So you can relate. It's like I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I can talk to a kid like literally, and within 5 or 10 minutes, I can tell what kind of experience they're having as a child in their home. I can tell if they're happy or if they're sad, or if I can just pick up on it. And that's because I went through that experience, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, it was those experiences are painful, but on the other side is this relatable thing that you're able to get as a gift, which allows you to tap into to touch people and to empathize with people who have had similar journeys. You say, yeah, I know what that's like. I've been there. I feel you.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's important. It's important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a way to um kind of reach out to others, I guess, not necessarily, from a place of like, please notice, but I
Yeah.
think it's like a way to reach out and be like, connect with others, really unite with others in a way that is
Yeah.
different than just talking or, trying to strike up a conversation. It has a very special place in people's hearts in all different forms.
Hmm.
And so I think this is a great segue into the next question and kind of topic is, what does creativity mean to you?
Mm. And creativity, I mean, it's one of the words of God, right? It's one of the names of God, the creator, It really is, individual artists really in a way, thinkers, artists are in some sense mimicking, that virtue of God when we are creating. So there's a sense that you're in a kind of spiritual flux, if you will, or a space of spiritual engagement that links you to the creator, you know. And so there's that feeling that there's that. I mean, fundamentally, the most important thing, that's what creativity means to me, is that it also means that I have it means a choice to me. I mean, it implies a choice on what I send into the world, which is all about where my spirit is, where my kind of worldview is, where am I grounded ethically, what I think about is important, the values, the virtues that shape my life. And all of that frames whatever it is that I create, right?
Yeah.
So there's the possibility of being a creative, hopefully, who's conscious, who's thoughtful. You're mimicking that virtue of God. And you're also hopefully sending something that's noble into the world, which is also, in a way, mimicking, the noble creativity of the creator, So for me, that's what it means. And it's play. I mean, it's fun. I mean, that's the other part. That's what it means. It's just fun, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't having a good time at it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And you mentioned how it's something that really connects with one's spirit and
Mhm.
that it comes from those ideas. So with that, how do you reconcile that creativity and what you mentioned about it with spirituality?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, it's such an internal process. I mean, centering oneself, getting oneself ready or prepping to enter a creative space, which is all about the soul, the nature of the soul, the spirit. And then the creative act itself is fundamentally spiritual in nature. It's something on the inside that's manifesting itself outwardly, right? So for me, I find that to be a really magical process. It's like alchemy in a way. You're taking something that, if you're a visual artist, you're a maker, you're taking objects or things that maybe have existed, and then creating something new with those assortments of materials. And something that initially that only you can see. Other people probably can't see that. You see it in your inner eye first, and then you manifest it outwardly. So that's very akin to prayer, I think. We pray inwardly, and then we manifest, through our behavior, our supplications and our prayers. So for me, that's a fundamental link between the creative process, between artistic practice and the soul and the spiritual life. They're so intimately interrelated. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love
Mhm.
that comparison between how you manifest art outwardly and inwardly with prayer. I don't think I've ever quite thought of it that way, but
Mhm.
I think that's definitely what I've felt.
Mm.
And I think that's like that finally like puts words to it. So that was
Yeah, yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. Thank you.
And so with that, how and I guess kind of when did you decide you wanted to take your career in art and connect it with the faith or have the teachings of the faith inspire your art?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not an artist that does literal interpretations of the faith in my work. I'm not an artist that sculpts huge murals with the name Baha'u'llah on them. That's not the way I work. What I try to do, hopefully, is to have the work reflect, in terms of its values and the issues that it's dealing with, right? Um, a consistency with the teachings of Baha'u'llah. So my work a lot of times deals with social justice. It deals with uh, you know the aspiration of the soul to kind of transcend its circumstances, right? So all of that is consistent with the writings. The writings inform the kind of the approach to ideas, in terms of what I create. And when I'm acting, if I accept a job, or if somebody offers me a job and I'm thinking about whether or not I should take it, I'm looking at a couple of things. I'm looking at, first of all, what's the artistic quality of the work? Is the work artistically challenging enough that I'm going to feel like I grow? I'm also looking at the kind of messages that it communicates to the larger society. Is this something that is about, human experience in a deep way? Is there something noble about this work, or is it just going to feed the kind of dumping ground, of artistic expression that is such a large part of, our contemporary society? So I'm thinking about those two things, which are very, very important to me. The content, and also the quality and the content working together. So, and all of that comes out of my spiritual life, my journey as a Baha'i. Otherwise, I wouldn't have those considerations if I didn't have that framework, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, mhm,
I definitely resonate with that.
mhm,
I know for me, a lot of like, for instance, the music I listen to, when I pick the music I listen to, I want to understand the words. I find it very important, like you said, to always analyze the content of it
yeah,
because it contributes to the happiness of our soul, and
mhm,
it then contributes to how we are uplifted,
mhm,
and and where we go, I guess, kind of mentally. I know a lot of your art, like you mentioned, focuses on people, the oneness of humanity, storytelling. And so you described how you kind of naturally your art is fueled by that spirituality and your values in the framework of the faith. When somebody sees your art, do you think they go, "Oh yeah, that's the spiritual concept of it."
the first thing is I want people to feel is something that it resonates with something deep inside of themselves. Like they can't escape the grip or the pull of this object or this performance, because there's something about it that's just like, whoa, I don't know what this is, but there is something about what this is that is very interesting to me. So that's the first thing. And then as they spend time with the thing, the object, and they begin to decipher and decode the meaning, I hope that's also a secondary kind of hit that they have. That they're like, wow, I didn't realize that that's what he was talking about. You know, that's really interesting. So yeah, so on the one hand, it's just creating something that is appealing because of it's the way it looks. There's something that is attractive about the way this thing appears. And then you spend time with it, and then you see the substance that's underneath the surface. It's like, wow, that's really resonating for me on both of those levels, on how it appears and then also how it's communicating underneath the appearance. And really, that's what we're asked to do in the faith, right? As people, we're taught to, the faith. Most of the emphasis obviously is on the spiritual interiority of our being, but then we're also taught to, be clean, to, dress appropriately, to be well mannered, to treat people with respect. So all of that's about a consistency between what's presented on the exterior and then also what's operating on the interior, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I hope that people get out of it. Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
definitely say from my perspective, when I look at your art, I get that. So I'm sure many others do as well. Um, I think we're going to start talking a little bit about um, youth
Mm-hmm.
and in connection to the arts and those careers. So,
Yeah.
among finding a career, what
Mhm.
considerations do you feel are over or undervalued in our society when evaluating career choices, or even things like service projects that people join, the clubs they join?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, career is an interesting thing. I mean, I think you have to balance things. On the one hand, there is these very practical considerations. What kind of life, qualitative life, am I going to get out of this career? So is it going to provide me with enough sustenance to support myself, maybe support a family, co-support a family, to make a contribution, significant contribution to the maintaining of a household? So those are just practical things. Will it also allow me to contribute to the various Baha'i funds? If you're a Baha'i, or if you're in another religion, will it allow you to contribute to your faith or to the other things that you're interested in a way that supports meaningful work in the larger society? So that component of a certain level of wealth, and the faith is clear, and man is in need of wealth. So that's a consideration. On the other side of that, you want to make sure there's some internal alignment with the career choice, so that you don't want to just go to a job and you have to spend all of this time doing this job and you're miserable while you're doing the job, because you're probably not going to do your best work. So you want to make sure that it's something that you can be enthusiastic about, be joyful about doing, and that will translate into the kind of work that you produce. So it's a combination of both satisfaction and also whether or not the work will sustain you from a material point of view. So you have to consider both of those things. I think they're important. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Specifically within your career that you've established,
Yeah.
how would you define its success, its impact?
Hmm. Yeah, I think as a creative, obviously, you want to feel like whatever it is that you make touches people and moves them to think deeper about things. So that's very important to me. That I'm engaged in work that is meaningful in a deep way, and a bit of an atypical way, because it's not like you meet a lot of professional artists on a daily basis. You don't. I mean, so it's a bit atypical in that sense. And then I work in a number of different creative fields as well. But I'm so invested in whatever I do, trying to be as honest in the work as possible and allow my own experience to be kind of a touchstone of community in a way where people can perhaps see themselves a bit in what it is that I've created, whether it be an article that I've written or a podcast that I've done or a performance or a work of visual art. So those things are very important to me. obviously being able to afford to take care of myself is very important. To be able to contribute to the different activities that I think are important, particularly the various funds of the Baha'i community. I mean, that's very important to me. I think and growth and the feeling that I'm growing in the discipline, that I'm constantly unfolding, that it doesn't become rote or just a kind of exercise, mechanized exercise, but I'm always challenging. There's always new mountains to climb, always new challenges to face and confront. So those are things that are really important for me, that are a definition of success for
Yeah,
me.
success is
Yeah.
definitely very, very important. And with that, I was wondering what advice you have for youth who want to pursue art as a career, but aren't sure how to begin.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is knowing yourself, right? Is knowing what I'm interested in, what gets me excited, what inspires me. So that's some very basic kind of internal work, and then I think it's really important to seek the advice of people who are in the areas that you're thinking about. So talk to visual artists, talk to painters and sculptors, talk to dancers, talk to acting professionals, talk to writers, and see what the life is like, see what their life looks like.
Yeah,
And I think all of that information is very helpful in terms of helping you decide, is this the life that you want, or if you decided you want to go down another path. So, and then prayer is very important. Prayer, reflection, and meditation, which is part of the getting to know the self, right?
yeah,
What is God really saying to me? Does this feel in alignment, with, is this my calling? Am I hearing my calling? Or is this something else,
yeah.
So yeah, so I think getting in touch with the self, and then getting as much information as you possibly can, and um, and then consulting, as I said before, make sure you're engaging in some consultation. So all of those things are indispensable in that process, I think. Yeah. Hmm.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And I've loved this conversation. Before we end our segment, is there any additional advice or encouragement you'd like to share with our listeners?
I mean, I know this is a program that's directed towards the youth. I'm just, really want to encourage all of the youth just to continue to explore, to search for ways that you can make your contribution to the world, to think intentionally about the kind of person you want to be in the world, and how your unique design, which is truly unique, there is nobody else in the world like you, how that is going to make the world a brighter and better place as a result of you being here. So those things I think are so vitally important, and also to try to remember to see the end in the beginning, to think as far ahead as you can, and think about the life and the course that you're charting for yourself, and how you want to be, the kind of legacy that you want to leave behind. It's important. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us and for our wonderful conversation and your time and your insight today. Um, Before we end it, I just want to say be sure to check out Mr. Olufani's art on his website, https://www.masud-olufani.com, and follow him on his socials at Olufani on Instagram and at Masud Olufani on Facebook to stay updated with his latest projects and work. Mr. Olufani has a beautiful exhibit named Down Yonder, I Heard Somebody Calling My Name at the Rosa Parks Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. Would you like to share more about it with us?
It's a mixture of different artworks, multimedia artworks that deal with the issue of race, justice, social stratification, and spirituality. So yeah, that's
And
it.
how long will it be on exhibit and where can they check it out?
They can, well, you can't, I don't think you can see it online. You have to go to, actually, the Rosa Parks Museum in Montgomery has been the only museum that has continuously been open during COVID. So if you happen to be in the area, you can stop by there. You can also go to the Rosa Parks Museum's website, and I think they do have some images of the exhibition. It's just not, they don't have everything on site. So yeah, and it's up until the end of this month, actually.
That's wonderful. So everyone, be sure to check that out. And thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure. And thank you all for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast channel and follow us on Instagram at spiritofsuccess and Facebook at spiritofsuccess for updates and to ask questions that you would like us to consider to talk about. Until next time, I'm your host, Yara, and don't forget to continue challenging yourself and working to make your spirit soar to new heights. Bye!